Hello, thanks for tuning in. So yes, what does wealth mean to you? I'm going to run with that idea. What does wealth mean? Health is wealth and so on. We all know that. But what is wealth? What is true wealth? And I want to talk about in relation to equality of outcome. How do we distribute wealth in an equal way? How can we distribute it in a manner that allows all to live wholesome lives, to thrive in this reality in a most wholesome, beautiful way? Because all human beings deserve that. And if you don't see reality through that lens, then, your lens is tainted. All human beings have a right to exist in a wholesome way on this planet. And that's the premise. So how do we distribute wealth? And there's been a lot of research into it and into equality of outcome. How can we ensure a good outcome for all citizens? In light of the fact that there are myriad variables that make us up in relation to our different strengths. Some are stronger than others, some are faster. Some are more artistic, some are more creative, some are more intelligent. And if somebody finds the cure for brain cancer and they make £1 million off it or £10 million, there's a sense that they deserve that, and why should anybody deny it to them after all their hard work, and so on. So how can you compete if you're weak and somebody else is strong? How can you compete if you're not as beautiful as some of the most beautiful women in the world who make millions off the back of their beauty? How do we distribute wealth? When there's such imbalance in relation to all the surface variables that make us human. And that's the key point, all the surface variables that make us human. Let's consider wealth in relation to what I like to think of as the equality of input. And I believe this is a better way to go about thinking about how we distribute wealth. Because we have to understand wealth. What is wealth to you? We have to understand what wealth is, I believe, in relation to pseudo-wealth, an ugly colonized version of what wealth is, and so on. So equality of input, what does that mean? Well, consider the input, consider everything that has been put into our world that allows you to live on this day. The alphabet has been put into us. That input was put in by other individuals on behalf of our species. Many men and women give up their lives, and we all salute them, don't we? They give up their own freedoms, their own right to live in a wholesome way on this planet. So the generations that followed after them could live in a more, wholesome way. So, their sacrifice has been put into us. Poetry has been put into us. Art has been put into it. Medicine, the pursuit, the endeavours to understand medicine, the long road we've walked to better understand our makeup so we could address that makeup and heal it when it was out of kilter with itself and with the collective. Those endeavours have been monumental. People have climbed mountains to understand medicine. People have climbed mountains to get down into the atoms, so to speak. People have climbed mountains to build us bridges, and to dig up the minerals to build bridges, and to dig up the minerals to build the machines that we put in hospitals to save children's lives. And all of that has been put into us. That's all input. So if you have an idea, and your idea is to find fruition, say you have an idea and it'll lead to finding a cure for leukemia, and that'll be fabulous. The world needs that. And that input you're about to bring takes hours and hours of dedicated study. You have to understand your field, you have to understand all the fields of blood and cell and DNA and cancer and etc., all the variables, to even contemplate how you go about thinking with what you want to cure. So it's a huge endeavour. It's a mountainous climb in its own right. And if you arrive on your path and you find a cure for leukemia, well, you have brought that input to our society. But you're not an isolated individual. This is what's important about equality of input. You are made up of that wave that has lifted you up high on this day. You were able to approach the subject of curing leukemia because you have an alphabet. It's been put into you. You have a language structure that has been put into you. You have food on the table that's been put into you by farmers and people who went about understanding the land and how to grow more food and better food for everybody. You have teachers who sat down one day and studied and learned to read books and learned their alphabet so they could become teachers to teach you, and so on. You have people who translated all the different scientific books from Russian, from Chinese into English, into Chinese, who translated those books so knowledge could be shared. That has all been put into you. You have people who died in trenches so you could live freely. That has been put into you, or else there's no poetry in you at all, there's no art in you at all, there's no refinement in you at all, and it's just a big bubble of fucking arrogance and self-aggrandizement. It's an egocentric view of the world if you think you could stand out from all of that input and serve yourself on the back of it. So on that note, like the equality of input, so let's ask ourselves, we're all part of a village, say. It's easier to break it down to a microcosm, say 1,000 people in a village, and we're all farming and farming medicine and farming food and farming psychology and farming poetry and farming art and farming each other and farming our children and just bringing ourselves up in relation to nature in the most ecologically beautiful, metaphysical, spiritual way. How beautiful is that? And in being held in that, the equality of input, the input that holds you, being held in there, you do something monumental, something that kind of separates you. You, like I said, you find the cure for something that everybody needs, and you're held on high and poetically held on high, and that's your reward. And if that's not your reward, if you're looking for something else, the question is, are you looking for the colonized view, the pseudo view of what wealth is? Like, how do you want to be rewarded? Do you want to step away from the village of 1,000 people who have put so much input and love into you and invested so much love and goodness into you and died for you and sacrificed their lives and time for you? You want to separate yourself from that, and for what? For a house on the hill, for a 50-bedroom mansion. Is that what you're about? Is that what you mean by being rewarded? Because this has to be put on the table. Okay, some people want to be rewarded financially so they can use that money to help other people. Fabulous. Okay, altruism, fabulous. I'm all for that. While we have a monetary system that is a cage in itself. But let's get back to what you want. Do you want flash cars and diamond rings and to impress everybody because you have a Picasso on the wall? That's not an understanding of art even. If you have a Picasso on a fucking mansion wall, you do take it down and jump out the fucking high window with it in your hand and hold that up and keep that safe when you hit the ground. I don't really mean that, but you know what I mean? I want to make the point. You don't understand art. You don't deserve art. Art is in my word because it has been put into me, or else what is art about? Art is not a scribbling of a picture or a playing of a tune, it's what the intent we put into it. That's our art. It's how we see each other, that's art. How we see each other in a noble, honourable, majestic, dignified way, that's art. So I don't want to separate myself from the village because the village is my wealth. We're tautologically strapped into that fact. Okay, we're tautologically, we can't untie ourselves from it in language. Like, we aggregate, we break down to molecules. That's not just a sentence. I'm structured for that sentence to extend from me once I understand the pattern and order in play. Okay, we're structured into the ecology. When you talk up the ecology that we need clean water instead of piss in the pond, you're actually talking up the way you are structured. It's not up for debate, okay? That's why there are so many crooked ideologies out there, because people are not talking up the way they are structured. Some of it is structured, love and peace and harmony, but a lot of it is bull and shadows, dark fucking shadows with serpents in them. So yes, equality of outcome, equality of input. There has been a lot of mileage put into you, and if you want to stand out for it from all of that because you have done something extra fucking special and you want to remove yourself from our input, well, more fool you. Because it only seems to be for flash cars and posh watches and the right shoes, the right fucking shoes. I'm putting your feet in the right shoe right now. If you want to stand out for that, then you, I believe, are impoverished, and you are part of an arrogant, colonized view of what wealth is, which impoverishes us all, okay? It deflates us all, it kills our art, it kills our artistic spirit, it kills our poetic spirit, it kills our intelligence, it kills our spirit, it kills everything metaphysical about us, okay? So it's tiny. You diminish in it. In your mansion, you're diminished. In your flash cars, you're diminished because you have separated yourself, believing yourself to want more. So anyway, to round it up. So the answer to equality of outcome is not in measuring the sort of myriad surface variables, that some are better singers and some are more beautiful and some are stronger and some are more intelligent and some are very creative and some can invent and so on. It's about your mindset. It's about how you view wealth. That's what it's about. That's for the answer, because that's what makes us the same in there. There's no difference once we're in the metaphysical pond of what we are. There's no difference in there. We're all connected to one hive last time I looked, irrespective of the fools who have walked off that path in a narcissistic way to serve themselves. And look what we've become because of them. So yes, the question is, look in the mirror, look in the proverbial mirror and ask yourself what you want, what is wealth to you. Because we have to change the narrative, meaning we have to change the mindset, and the new narrative extending from the new mindset has to talk up wealth in a more beautiful, poetic way, or else we're going to remain impoverished forever. So the distribution of wealth, is set by how we see one another. So anyway, I hope you've taken something from that, and yeah, lots to ponder on your pillow. Peace and love and logic, and thanks for tuning in.